Good evening and welcome to the Lakewood Elementary School Community Webinar. I'm Lawana Porter with Dallas ISD Communications, and I will be serving as your facilitator today. We have several guests who are here. Many of them will be familiar to you. We have a presentation that will be shared with you, and we will take questions after that presentation. And of course, our principal, Brittany Thompson, is here. Leanna Bentley, assistant principal of Lakewood, is also with us, as is Nicola Thorne, also assistant principal. And we have the executive director of the Woodrow Wilson and Skyline Feeder Patterns, Danielle Petters, as well as Dr. Mark Ramirez, deputy chief of school leadership. They will all be here to answer your questions. And you may begin putting your questions in the Q&A box at the bottom of the Zoom window, and after the presentation we will take as many of those questions as we have time to answer. And with that, why don't we jump right in? And I believe that Dr. Ramirez is going to make the presentation.
Thank you, Ms. Porter, and good evening, Lakewood community. Again, my name is Mark Ramirez, Deputy Chief of School Leadership. Before we get started, I just want to begin by publicly thanking all of our parents who have been involved in being just a part of this throughout this entire process, being a part of just this process. Once we made the decision to go hybrid, we had to prioritize safety first and not just jump into quick decisions. So we thank you just for your input and your patience throughout this entire process. I also want to acknowledge Principal Thompson and her leadership team. They have worked countless hours and have gone through multiple scenarios and plans to ensure we are prioritizing safety and security for all of our students, while also focusing on the quality of instruction for all of our students, both on campus and virtual students. So the purpose of today's webinar is to highlight the process we went through up to this point and to inform the community of our final decision. Again, like Ms. Porter said, as we go through the session, utilize the Q&A session, include any questions, comments, or any kudos that you have for us throughout the entire presentation. So before we look at the specifics of the educational plan, I know that a question on everyone's mind is regarding yesterday's announcement that Dallas ISD County is moving from orange back to a red COVID risk zone. What does this mean for us? What does this mean for Lakewood? What does this mean for Dallas ISD? So we're going to continue to maintain our current educational offerings with safety protocols consistently in place for all of our campuses. Schools have been equipped with masks, hand sanitizer, plexiglass, and Dallas is going to continue to provide and replace these items as they are needed at all of our campuses, just with the purpose of mitigating risk for all of our students and staff members. The district will also be sending out an announcement to all their parents to inform them that each family has the option to switch to 100% virtual learning for their child at any time. Like I said, I know today we're going to talk about a survey if it's going to go out, but if at any time throughout the entire 9 weeks, you're a parent and you want to go from on campus to virtual, you can do that at any time. So in order for any family to switch to distance learning, all they have to do is call the campus and let them know that their decision is to switch to a virtual learning environment. Now, what does this mean for the Lakewood community? And everything we have learned over the first few weeks of having on-campus learners. So far, we decided to begin the year with a hybrid model to be able to safely accommodate all of our students that chose on-campus instruction. We also identified 5 guiding principles that we're going to utilize in our decision-making process. And the 5 guiding principles have not changed since we began this process. And the 5 guiding principles are: number 1, maximize the safety of our students, teachers, and staff. Ensure a full day of learning 5 days a week for all of our students. Create the least disruptive change while working within existing spaces when possible. Consider and promote voice and choice through stakeholder input, which we're really worked at doing from both parents and staff. And then stay nimble and be able to adjust for future changes as needed. As we all know, during this time, it's been difficult. It's been, and I'm not gonna share, it's been difficult just leading during these times, difficult for Principal Thompson and us just kind of making decisions as what is best for all of our students. So just thank you for staying nimble and adjusting for any future changes that we may have. So we decided to bring in, so here's what we've done so far. We decided to bring in and collaborate with county health officials, building planners, district personnel, SBDM, and PTA representatives to begin looking at all of our available options. In walking with Dr. Chung, and that was a great learning experience for all of us, we learned that we could mitigate the spread of the virus by ensuring we have student bubble groups that range from 2 to a maximum of 6 students, as long as the bubble groups were 6 feet apart. Now that is critical for us as we move forward, is just understanding the bubble groups and how we can use the bubble groups to mitigate the learning, mitigate just the spread of the virus. So again, it's from a minimum of 2 to a maximum of 6 students that we can safely put in bubble groups. We also learned that the preference would be to have students that are 10 years and older seated in rows all facing one direction, and desks being 6 feet apart for 10-year-old students and older. Now, this did require our Lakewood staff to be creative in their room arrangements and reconfigure space to maximize the square footage in each room, while safely allowing us to meet social distancing 6-foot guidelines. Now, again, every room was a little bit different as far as square footage. So again, it wasn't, we can just say, okay, 16 students in every room. It varied depending on which room we were looking at there at Lakewood. So yes, some extra furniture and desks were removed, but teachers did an amazing job and made sure classroom libraries, manipulatives, and instructional centers remained accessible to students while still providing an inspiring visual learning environment for each of our classrooms. And I say that only because I did receive some emails saying that we were just clearing out the entire room and it was just completely bare. I mean, so we did keep, our classrooms to be just inspiring and learning environments for all of our students. The area that was the highest risk was the cafeteria. The reason being, which kind of makes sense, is that we have an increased number of students gathered in one location. They all have their mask off because they're eating. So this required us to ensure we had to have a different plan in how we were going to provide lunches for all of our students during the day. So which means that we're going to shift to having lunch in the classroom in this new model. At the end of the day, we had to take all factors into consideration and make a final decision on how we are moving forward. We started with many options and added even some options that some parents brought forward to us to consider. So again, parents, thanks for your email and input. All those were considered. After reviewing the pros and cons of all the options, we narrowed down the choice to our final 2. We remain focused on the guiding principles I mentioned previously and on being creative and finding a safe way to ensure a full day of learning 5 days a week for all of our students. So after reviewing and discussing the multiple scenarios, we narrowed down our potential solutions to the top 4 and then gave the community an opportunity to give input on each of the choices. So we used a weighted system to determine our top 2 choices. So if you look at just the slide, out of 963 Lakewood students enrolled, we had 656 total responses to the parent input form, which was a response rate of 68%. It was evident that moving our 5th graders to another campus was not an option that we were going to pursue or that ranked high in any of the parent input that we received. So that left us with our top 2 choices, which was option 3 and option 4. Now, both options are very similar. The main difference is that option 3 dismisses our students at 2 p.m. and the students will do specials and recess at home via virtual learning. Option 4 also provides for a full day, 5 days of instruction, and we will do specials on campus, but students are dismissed at 2:45 and they have recess at home. We also asked the Lakewood staff to provide input on the top 2 options that we were considering. Teachers were given the opportunity to provide their voice and choice as we have outlined with Principle 4. The teachers have the insight and the background of what they are doing on a daily basis, and we value their expertise, and they also gave us input. So if you look at the survey the results of the staff input from the staff indicated that an overwhelming response to go with option 3. We had 93.8% of our staff members select option 3 as their top choice. Here are the reasons why. Meet the educational needs of all of our students while keeping everyone safe. A 2 p.m. release, and that's the main difference. Remember, option 3 is a 2 p.m. release. Option 4 is a 2:45 release. So a 2 p.m. release will give the campus more flexibility in utilizing staff to support classroom teachers throughout the day. maximize our campus instructional staff to support school-wide systems, as well as teachers will have duty-free lunch at 2:15 and planning at the end of the day. So next slide said, here's the plan that we have moving forward beginning on November the 9th. The plan for Lakewood is to move forward with option 3 beginning on November the 9th. This is the best plan to meet the needs of all of our students and align with our guiding principles. So on November the 9th, our campus learning day will be from 7:45 to 2 p.m. daily. The benefits of this plan include the following. Number 1 is safety for students. This schedule maximizes on-campus learning time for students while minimizing transitions, changes in student groups, which I know that's been a topic of discussion, just changes in homeroom teachers, and then large space utilization. With limited movement, ending the day at 2 p.m. will allow students to complete specials at home via the LMS platform, and this encourages movement at home and a change of scenery for our students while not sacrificing safety within the building through multiple class changes. This also limits exposure and streamlines contact tracing. The second benefit is social and SEL experiences for our students. Teachers will facilitate lunches for their own class in the classroom. We will also encourage the use of outdoor spaces as much as possible throughout the day. We will offer brain breaks, and safe scheduled movements will be scheduled within the school day. I know another concern that has come across is just, again, students sitting all day in one classroom, so we'll have brain breaks that allow movement for our students throughout the day. And then the time period from 2 to 3:15 can also be used for specially scheduled groups such as dyslexia services, 504 services, speech services, and SPED services. We can use additional time to offer additional support for our students from 2 to 3:15. And then the third benefit is faculty and staff support. Again, I know our teachers, we thank our teachers for all the work that they've been doing on a daily basis, just managing virtual and on-campus learners. So ending at 2 o'clock will provide teachers needed planning and conference time for them. Facilitating specials at home will also ensure Lakewood special teachers have added flexibility during the day to support campus operations. So knowing that this is our decision to move forward, we also want to be cognizant of what this means for all of you, for all the families. Each family will have to make a decision and will have the following options available to them. On-campus learning. So one option is on-campus learning following the option 3 model. Following the virtual learning format and just doing virtual learning. Or if you are a family, which we know we do have some families that must have a full day until 3:15 instruction, we will work with those families to transfer to a nearby school that does offer full day instruction until 3:15 if they have space available. And right now, most of our surrounding schools do have space available. And we have had a few families that have taken advantage of this option already and have transferred to another nearby school. So those are the 3 options for our families and our parents. The timeline is as follows. So if you look at our timeline, let me move this, I can see my screen. So the timeline is on the 19th, which is at Monday, parents will get from the campus. Campus will send out a parent change of intent form opens up for our families. And on October 30th, the parent change of intent form closes. On the 4th of November, parents are notified of any classroom changes. And on the 9th, the second 9-week period begins with full day, 5-day of on-campus instruction. Next slide is what's the next steps for the families. So it kind of goes with the timeline. So I'm going to clarify a little bit what I just mentioned about the form is going to be sent out by the campus. So if you'd like to change your child's learning model, we need to request a change via a button on campus. There's going to be a campus website beginning on October the 19th. So on October 19th, you'll have the option this is only if you want to change which model you want to follow. So, and you have until the October 30th to request a change. So only the submissions submitted via the button on campus will be accepted. So here's what that means. So if you are currently on campus and you want your child to remain on campus, then you don't have to do anything. If you are on campus and you want to change to a virtual, then you need to kind of submit, just let campus know that you want to go to virtual and you're not going to be coming on campus. So that's the kind of main thing I want to just make sure I clarify. You only need to complete the survey if you are making a change to the instructional setting for the next grading cycle. If you're virtual and you're going to stay virtual, then you don't need to do anything. We have it recorded that you are a virtual learner and your child is a virtual learner. So hopefully that makes sense. But again, if you have any additional questions, please add it to the Q&A and we'll make sure that we answer those questions. So the request for virtual can be honored at any time. That's also important to know. Right now, again, as a father myself, I have a senior. And so same thing, I need to kind of make the decision looking at what's going on, going to red and she wants to go on campus. So I need to make also the decision to say if she's going to, no, I don't want her to go on campus, I want her to be virtual, then I have to make the choice as a parent. So, but if I want to change it, I would say the middle of November, you can change from on campus to virtual at any time. So just kind of want to make sure I'm making that clear. So now the request for on campus is a little bit is difficult, and that's the reason we need. That's the reason we're time stamping. That's the reason we need you to submit your form if you're going to make a change, because there is going to be a capacity, and once you reach that capacity, we may only have a virtual option available if we are already at capacity for those that are virtual and want to return to on campus. So that's kind of critical. So the request for on campus will be timestamped. The current enrollment will have preference. Now again, that's also critical. So right now, currently, if you are on campus, and if all of our on-campus learners remain on campus, we have enough space at Lakewood to honor the request of all of our current on-campus learners to remain at Lakewood. So any new enrollee will be guaranteed a virtual spot, and space permitting, the campus will use the timestamps to assign a face-to-face seat once we reach capacity. And again, it's difficult. Again, I know there may be a lot of questions around that. It may be difficult to answer because we'll need the results of the survey. We'll need to know, first of all, how many of our students are coming back for on-campus learning to ensure that we can kind of and then determine how many we can accept at Lakewood Elementary. And again, we have different options that we've been looking at, so to be able to accept a few more students, but we'll be able to accommodate as many. We will accommodate as many of our on-campus learners as we can possibly can. So parents will be notified of any homeroom changes the week of November the 2nd. And I think there was another part where I was going to add this, so just know this. I know homeroom changes have also been a topic of discussion. And going back to guiding principle number 3, we wanted the least disruption. So as we looked at all of our plans, we also looked at, we don't want to make massive homeroom changes. If possible, we wanted to keep all of our homeroom, well, whatever homeroom we have now, keep as many of our students with their actual homeroom teacher without having to go back and forth. So all those were considered as we're making kind of these decisions. So I just wanted to make sure everyone was aware of that. So as I kind of wrap up my portion, it says we are committed to providing a high quality educational experience for all of our Lakewood students and doing so in a safe environment. We walked with space planners. We looked at all of our available options. The final decision was the one that also caused the least disruption for our students, and we decided not to move our 5th graders to another Dallas ISD campus. We heard your voice. I know there was a lot of parents that kind of reached out and said that wasn't the best option. So we did listen to parent input. The other thing is we will improve upon this model to ensure our students are not only learning, but thriving in this educational model. We also wanted to honor parents' time and your voice, and we took the time necessary to look at all viewpoints while we made the best decision to move forward. With the adjustments we made, we can accommodate all of our on-campus students. Once all parents have made the decision to do either on-campus or virtual instruction, there may come a time where we inform parents we're at capacity and we only have the option, and the only option may be to go virtual or transfer to another Dallas ISD campus. Again, we're aware that may happen. Again, but we won't know until we get all the data, until we know for sure how many of our students are going to remain on campus and how many are going to revert back to virtual or remain at virtual. We will honor those that have chosen to be on campus, and we will timestamp the survey results in case we reach capacity and are not able to accept any more of our campus learners. Let me see, I think I covered most everything. So the last part, again, we included here some pictures of just current pictures of how we are spacing out and social distancing all of our students. Remember, the bubble groups are in groups of 2 to 6. And again, that's more for contact tracing, but also following the safety guidelines and mitigating the spread of the virus. So our executive directors are also of great support to all of our principals throughout the district. The EDs assist with coaching campus principals, brainstorming with them, and be an additional voice in assisting with problem solving. Ms. Petters, in this case, Ms. Petters continues to provide support and is able to bring in her background and her expertise and her experience to assist Principal Thompson in whatever she needs. And I will pass it over to Ms. Petters to add anything that I may have left off. So Ms. Petters, anything that you want to say to the group?
I think you pretty much covered it all, but I would like to say that I'm just really proud of this Lakewood team, the leadership team, for constantly looking out for the best interest of all of the students in their care, and that we are we're making strides to create just like new and novel responses to what we're all going through. And I appreciate the support of parents, that you guys are some of the smartest, hardworking parents that I've ever worked with in my 28 years in the district. And so I'm just really proud of this community pushing for excellence. So thank you for that.
So now I'll turn it back over to Ms. Porter to see if there's any questions. Or, you know, before that, I don't know, Ms. Thompson, well, again, I'll be available to Q&A. Ms. Thompson will be available for question and answer, as well as Ms. Petters. Ms. Porter?
All right. Thanks very much, Dr. Ramirez and Ms. Petters. And of course, yes, there are a lot of questions, some of which I trust were answered during your presentation, but please forgive me if we do some backtracking because, as I said, there are quite a few. One of the questions is, will teachers be teaching virtually and in person at the same time? And does this mean that students will be on their devices all day?
So thank you for asking that. Our teachers are going to begin implementing the virtual and in-person simultaneously, but we do not expect the in-person students to be on devices all day. We're still going to continue to incorporate many of those in paper and tactile sources in the classroom. I will say that we've had several teachers, specifically in our dual language classrooms, and a few other teachers who have experimented with this, and we are learning from them, and it's going really well, and we're getting a lot of feedback around implementing both, a lot of good feedback.
Mm-hmm. Let me add on to that. As executive director, I have the privilege to visit campuses across the city, and so I am in 12 different campuses over the 2-week cycle, and all of the other schools are already implementing this model or simultaneous instruction. And so we're learning a lot really fast about how to do it well. And we have trainings scheduled this week coming up that's a continuation of what we've been doing to make sure that this is like the very best high quality instruction we can. And we're seeing success in lots of places. And I know that our Lakewood teachers are some of the most expert that I see. And I'm confident that they'll be able to get up to speed, if they're not already, really quickly with managing both of that simultaneously.
Another question has to do with students who go virtual, whose parents opt for them to attend classes virtually. Will those students be able to keep their same teachers and follow their same schedule?
So one of the reasons we did opt in for the simultaneous is so that our students could keep their homeroom teacher as much as possible. So our virtual students should be with their homeroom teacher that they currently have now. The schedule will have to be adjusted as we're going from the hybrid schedule to a new schedule. And so once we work through those details, we'll share that out.
All right. Another question is, will buses continue to be available?
Absolutely.
Please explain the bubble concept. Specifically, does that mean that the students will not be separated by 6 feet?
So the bubble concept is we will keep our students. So there will be, depending on, again, we can do from anywhere from 2 to 6 students in a bubble group. So if I'm in a bubble group and I'm in a group of 3, I won't be 6 feet apart from those 3 students, but I will have plexiglass dividers that divide us 3. But if the next bubble group will be 6 feet over, and that is more, again, for contact tracing to ensure, and these students will stay together throughout the day. So again, if they walk to the cafeteria and they pick up their lunch, then those 3 students will remain together throughout the day, still 6 feet apart as we're walking to one class to the next. And again, so the largest group is 6. So we may go to a campus and you may see bubble groups of 6. So 6 students will be, again, maybe at a larger table or their desk arranged in a circle. But again, plexiglass dividers will be up for all the students. They will have their mask on. And again, but each bubble group will be 6 feet apart from the next bubble group within the room. So I think that answered the question. So
I think so.
Again, Ms. Petters, Ms. Thompson, and make sure you add anything if I left anything off.
I think the only thing I would add is that the bubble groups are, it makes it easier for us to contact trace. It also mitigates risk. So it's not a prevention, it's not a fail-safe. And so it is a way of mitigating risk. And so keeping as many students safe as we possibly can at one time.
Another question is for families that are already having their children attend virtually, how does virtual change with the new model that starts November 9th? Will teachers change? And a follow-up, please share details on what virtual looks like for those opting for that for the first time.
So again, if teacher or students who are with their current homeroom teachers right now, those homerooms shouldn't change. If a student is with their current homeroom and they're, I guess we may have a few homeroom switches that we do have to make to level classrooms for capacity purposes. I'm really trying and committed to minimizing that as much as possible. But the majority of students, if they then chose virtual instruction, would stay with their homeroom teacher. So the intent is to truly minimize changes moving forward so that anytime a student needs to go into quarantine or does decide to opt into virtual learning would keep their current teacher. And I missed the second part of the question. Explain more about what this is going to look like. Virtual students will be zooming in to their classroom for their core content instruction, and they will be completing some of the assignments asynchronously or independently, and the teacher will still be able to answer any questions via Zoom. We've been experimenting with different options, and so as Ms. Petters said, we are going to continue learning more about this, and we are going to continue improving and growing and taking your feedback as we experiment and are trained and grow in our practices.
Another question is, why can recess not be included in the 2 p.m. option? I think that's what that 2 is. Other schools seem to be doing this safely. Can the students not at least utilize LOLA, whatever that means, acronyms, or go for a walk?
Yes, we absolutely are committed to scheduling those brain breaks, getting movement. We're going to be encouraging outdoor space. Of course, we can't have all 52 classes outside at the same time, so we'll be working on some really detailed schedules. Encourage lunch outside as much as possible, and those brain breaks, we can do walks. We certainly have some teachers who have implemented that here and there during the hybrid. And so we'll continue that practice and make sure we're getting our students moving and outside as much as possible.
Is there any chance that Dallas ISD might decide to go 100% virtual?
At this point, right now, we're trying to, again, offer full day 5 days instruction for all of our students as safely as possible. Now, I'm not going to say never, because I know there's some surrounding districts that are currently making the change as we look at just data for our county. So I'm not going to say no, but right now the plan is to just move forward with offering full 5 days instruction at all of our campuses.
Please talk about the instructional spaces that are available. Is it certain that every child will be placed in a classroom with their teacher, or is it possible that some students will have to be put in overflow spaces? And if so, how will that work?
So right now, we may need to move certain classes to larger spaces, such as the library, or we have an art and a music room that we're considering. And so right now we may have to make a few adjustments in spaces, and we're working through those details as we continue to work within the classrooms. As of now, we're not going to need to have any additional teachers. And there may be a scenario where we do have some overflow and need to get really creative. And so we've been playing with a few options to have students rotate through. We're still working through the details on that. And we will definitely share more if it does come to that.
All right, I want to remind those who are on the call that you can put your questions in the Q&A box at the bottom of the Zoom window. There certainly seems to be no shortage of that, but if you were wondering, that is how you can get your question before this panel. Another question comes from a parent. If we choose, or if we were to choose to go to another elementary school to transfer during this time, can we transfer back to Lakewood and be guaranteed an in-person spot?
And the short answer to that is yes. I mean, so we've been working with, again, we had a couple of students that transferred to Geneva Heights, and they always had the option that once we do open up, or, you know, for a full day of instruction, normal school, then they will always have the option to come back and prioritize those that were at Lakewood that decided to leave but want to come back. So the short answer to that is yes, they'll have the option to come back, and we will make space for them.
Dr. Ramirez, another question has to do with positive cases on campus. This parent is asking, will the school notify parents of any positive cases on campus? And is Lakewood committed to communicate that information to parents?
So yes, we will, but the difference on this one is that following FERPA laws and all the protocols is that we're communicating to those that were in direct contact. So let me go back to the bubble group example. If I'm in a bubble group and I was exposed to the COVID case, then yes, those parents will receive a letter saying that their child was exposed to a student that that was positive for COVID-19. And those parents with communication. Now, there's not going to be a mass email or mass letter that's going to send out to all the parents. It's going to be those that are impacted, and it could be a classroom, it could be a bubble group. So that varies depending on the situation. We do have a dashboard. What I don't know right now if it's public where everyone can click on that, and it shows the number of positive cases at any campus across the district. If it is, I mean, we need to kind of make sure we get it is. So put that website on there so everyone has access to it. So it's a dashboard that kind of shows how many positive cases at all of our schools, and that will be also available for our parents.
I'm going to ask my colleague who is moderating in the background if she could get the link to the dashboard and put that in the chat so that we can share that with others. Another question is, how will lunch work? If the students have to go down and get it, will they have enough time to eat?
Right now, we're planning on delivering the lunches to the classrooms. That's just going to take some work with the food and nutrition department and just make sure that we have everything. But we're really trying to minimize the movement. However, if our students are in a scheduled area outside to eat lunch, then they would already need to walk through. And so it may just depend on the setting they're eating lunch. And we're definitely going to encourage outdoor lunch as much as possible.
Someone else has looked at photos of the students whose learning spaces are equipped with plexiglass, and they're asking, how tall is the plexiglass? It looks like from the picture, the plexiglass is too short and the student is still breathing over it.
So I don't have the exact dimensions of the glass, but there's two types of plexiglass dividers. We have those that fold and the students kind of carry, well, it's really more for the secondary that they carry from one class to the next. These obviously stay in the classroom, but they can move from with the student. So, but I don't know the exact dimensions. There's other, and I don't know, we have a picture that shows the tall plexiglass, and I know for sure that one is probably about 4 or 5 foot tall. And we use those for, again, our older, our upper grade levels.
I should say here that I asked my colleague for the link to the dashboard. She said it's super long and difficult to share. However, we will make sure that we get Principal Thompson the link to that so that she can share it with the parents. So we will get that information to you. The dashboard is up. It's just recently been created, but it is up and it's in English and Spanish. So we will get that information to Principal Thompson tomorrow. Also, it is available on the district website. If you go to dallasisd.org/reentry, I'm told that tomorrow we will be pointing to where the dashboard is. Another question is, now that we have a plan, is it not possible to start that new schedule before November 9?
Well, we're waiting until November 9th because, you know, every 9 weeks, the parents will have the option, again, virtual or in person. So November 9th is the beginning of the next grading cycle. So we also kind of want to give the opportunity for parents, first of all, to kind of have time to kind of digest, kind of make the decisions, look at all their options. And again, as Ms. Thompson mentioned, I know there was a lot of questions as far as how many additional teachers, which space, which rooms, is that it gives us time to, first of all, we need to figure out how many students are we going to have that are going to be on campus. But once we have that number, we also need kind of time to plan to see which, do we have to move the current rooms that have high density to a larger room, or they may be able to stay exactly where they're at because of the number of families that selected to be on campus. So that's why we're waiting until November the 9th, because November 9th is when we begin the next grading period, and also gives time for the campus to plan once we know how many are virtual and how many are on campus.
Another question, if teachers are trying to think of creative ways to allow in-person students to utilize outdoor spaces, what will the virtual students be doing while their peers are outside?
So that's something we definitely have to keep in mind. We haven't tested the Wi-Fi outside, but we do have every teacher equipped with a laptop and an iPad. But I believe those times would be reasonably scheduled during the asynchronous work times or brain breaks that we've also been incorporating for the virtual learners.
That's what another question has to do with that. Will the outdoor brain breaks be accessible to wheelchairs? Many areas outside are not accessible to wheelchairs, especially the southwest area by the library.
Yes, we'll make sure that those places are accessible.
How will the changes affect students who are in the dual language program at Lakewood?
The changes shouldn't impact other than the students would be potentially in more bubble groups. There would be more students in the class, combining the AM and the PM session. And there may be a few classroom shifts to larger portions, but it shouldn't impact anything instructionally. They'll be still following that simultaneous of virtual and in person at the same time that they've been experimenting with.
I think I heard you say, Ms. Thompson, that there will not be a need for extra teachers. This questioner is asking how many extra classes will need to be created, who will be teaching, and how will those class assignments be made?
So we're still looking for creative solutions. Right now, we're trying to ensure that kiddos get to keep their homeroom teacher. And so we're really working through some different options. And as soon as we have those final numbers, we'll be able to share more about what that will look like.
You know, Ms. Thompson, let me add to, just to kind of on this one, is because when we first started, we also looked at, we're not saying we're going to use all available spaces, including like the gym, the cafeteria, the auditorium, because I know we also need those spaces like a contingency plan. So just to kind of say, it doesn't mean that we're going to just cram every student into every nook and cranny in the building. We're still going to have those spaces available. So we're not planning, even as we look to expand, we're not looking at using the gym, of using the auditorium, or using the cafeteria at this time. So, but just some of the other additional space that we can still use while still have a contingency space if we need it for things that may pop up at the campus.
What is the plan for on-campus after-school programs?
Yes, we are currently working with the district. I know previously we had 3 programs with the FOL, Big Thought, and YMCA. And so YMCA has gone through their training with the district to incorporate the new COVID protocols. And so they are currently on campus. And you can find that information on the parent newsletter that comes out on Sunday. We're also, Big Thought is in the process of getting their approval as well. And so they're going to be coming on for after school programming as well. The groups just may be a little smaller than they have been in the past. And then we're still working to try to get FOL on campus as well. We just are kind of working through the district approval process.
Before you leave there, Ms. Thompson, this question has to do with dismissal times. This parent is asking, will dismissal times be standardized? For example, morning dismissal is 10:45 a.m., but 2 days this week, the students were dismissed at 10:35 a.m.
So I'm so glad you asked. I think once we get everyone back for a full dismissal of all of the in-person students, I would love to incorporate a staggered dismissal, which is how we've been starting 5 minutes early for walkers and for our car line riders who are already here early. So I think that's probably a great idea to continue a staggered approach, and we may look we may look at mode. Maybe we do the walkers first and then begin car line, just so that we can safely get everyone out, because we can do it quickly, but it won't be safely. So we just know that we're going to have to add a little time for dismissal.
This parent is asking for clarification with regard to students who have been exposed to a COVID case. When you say that exposed students will receive a letter, do you mean an email or a phone call? A letter would take a couple of days to arrive, during which time the student could be contagious. An email or phone call seems much faster.
Yes, I just want to clarify, and I'm going to ask either Ms. Thorne or Ms. Bentley to fill in any gaps that I might be forgetting. But when you say exposure, we're talking close contact, which is defined by within 6 feet of the positive case for 15 minutes or longer. And so those notifications are made. We do a phone call, and then we also send the letter in the form of an email. So it's not a mailing letter, it is an email. And Ms. Thorne, Ms. Bentley, if I missed anything, please add in.
Hearing nothing, I'll say you must have done well, Ms. Thompson.
Ms. Porter, right here, since you're talking about just COVID, let me just kind of go back and clarify a comment from earlier. Because with the question that was asked regarding going virtual, and does the district plan on going back to virtual, since we're just talking about COVID cases and going to red. Now, the district does work closely with the county, and the county may kind of change and adjust their guidelines. But at the end of the day, Dr. Hinojosa will be the person, will be making the call. If at any point, with the data that he has available, decides that everyone's going virtual, that will be a district decision, and that decision will be made by Dr. Hinojosa, and and all the data that he has available. So I just want to make sure that I clear that up, just to make sure there's no misunderstandings moving forward.
Another question is asking, could you describe what lunch in the classroom will look like? What safety measures will be taken since students will be unable to wear masks?
So they're going to continue the same practices that we have. We'll do the bubble groups. We'll have the plexiglass. This is definitely a topic that I have on the list for the SBDM subcommittee, the COVID committee that we have. And I've also put in a text to Dr. Chung yesterday. So I'm hoping to chat with her about what are some best practices we can incorporate.
All right, we've had a few new callers to join the meeting since your original explanation, Dr. Ramirez, and I'm asking if you could go back and recap the decision, the parameters, the surveys, next steps, so that parents who came in later will also understand where we are in that process.
Definitely. Ms. Thompson, can you go back to earlier slides? So, yeah, so this is, so those of you that joined us late, so we talked about just everything that kind of has taken place up to this point and everything that went into making this decision, and all the input that we received from stakeholders, from teachers, from staff, from school leadership, and everyone involved in this decision. So we decided to move forward with option number 3 here at Lakewood. And option 3 is having a full day, 5-day of instruction with an early release at 2 o'clock, which means specials and recess will be at home via distance learning. So that is the option that we are going to move forward with. Currently, we have enough space at Lakewood to honor all the current on-campus students to be able to continue for the second 9 weeks and come on campus and have face-to-face instruction 5 days a week. But again, with the caveat being a 2 o'clock release. So that is the direction we're going to move forward in. Now, if there's a few more students that are virtual and that want to come face-to-face or on campus, then that's the reason that survey is going to go out on the 19th will be, well, I shouldn't call it a survey, it's just it's a change of intent form that are, yeah, surveys are bad. I know, Ms. Thompson, you're laughing again. Surveys are a bad, not a good word right now. Another survey, no, we'll get a change of intent form that we will send out to parents that if you want to change your model, and it's going to work both ways, because again, if you're on campus and you as a parent are not comfortable with this decision, and you say, I'm going to have my child go to virtual, then that will free up more spaces so we can now, and you have some virtual learners that want to come on campus, it may go both ways, then we need to look at the final numbers to determine how many we can actually accept at Lakewood with the final numbers. That so again, October 19th is when the intent form will open, and we'll have until the 30th to request a change. The 30th will allow us to get the final numbers, and will give us until November the 9th to plan and prepare everything to accept all of our on-campus learners. And if we need to, notify those parents that, again, if we reach capacity and we have to notify parents that the only option is virtual or transfer to another campus, then those parents will have also some time to make a decision, and we'll help them find another campus if that's what they want to do, or transfer to a virtual learning environment. I think that kind of captures it. Let me know if there's any additional questions.
I'm told that we do have a URL for the COVID dashboard. It's www.dallasisd.org/COVID dashboard, all one word. That seems pretty simple. So that again is www.dallasisd.org/COVID-dashboard. I do want to ask Ms. Thompson, did you have any closing remarks? We have just about 3 minutes before our time is up. Is there anything else that has occurred to you, or Ms. Petters, anyone who would like to have some closing remarks?
I just want to thank everyone for your patience, for your grace, and your continued support and input. I do want to reiterate that only changes of the instructional setting or model need to be submitted if you're continuing what you've been doing either in person or virtual. There's no need to have any input on the Google form. That's only for our families who wish to change their current mode of instruction. And just have to say how impressed I am with the Lakewood teachers, the staff, and the families. Your support has been overwhelming, and I really appreciate everything you guys are doing at home to ensure the success of our stallions. And just shout out to this awesome team. I'm very proud to be a part of the Lakewood team. Thank you.
Wonderful. We certainly want to thank everyone who was a part of making this meeting happen today. We certainly want to thank Principal Thompson for taking the time and doing the research. Also, Dr. Ramirez, Ms. Petters, and the assistant principals, Ms. Bentley and Ms. Thorne. Thanks to all the parents who have participated in today's meeting. We know that the school wants to stay in touch with you. They want to communicate. In this particular time, we have to over communicate. I do want to make a quick announcement in case you have not seen it. We're having an anti-racism seminar that is district-wide on Monday at 5 o'clock. And we hope that you will go to the Dallas ISD website and you will see the slider on the main page, and that you would register and participate. It's for all parents, all staff, anyone who is interested in learning more about what Dallas ISD is doing to achieve equity for all of our students in the district. That said, I thank you for participating. I want to thank our interpreter for her service, and it's been a pleasure to be part of the meeting today. That's all the time we have. Everyone, please have a safe and restful evening.